still with us, right? Okay. Okay, good. And then, okay, maybe some people are sleeping now. Okay, not sleepy, but sleeping. Okay. Very, like theoretical, very abstract, right? Talking about language is very, abstract. Okay, moving on to the next point here. Next issues we're going to talk about today is about grammar, teaching grammar in terms of explicit and implicit learning. There, grammar has received a lot of attention, okay, from language teacher, both researcher, not just language teacher, but researcher. But the focus has shifted or changed, a lot over time. The way we teach, grammar, has changed over time. And, grammar translation and explicit meta-linguistic instruction have, not completely disappear on or in English language teaching. Okay. And we still, in terms of teaching grammar, a lot of like teachers focus on like grammar and a particular form focus instruction. Okay, so grammar, we learn another important distinction here I make regarding learning of grammar is that item learning and rule learning. Okay, item learning and rule learning. So item learning involves the memorization. Item learning, okay, involve memorization of specific grammatical forms or linguistic features. Memorization, okay. For example, the verb, irregular verb, English irregular verb are a good example of item learning. Okay, so let's see this one. For example, sing. You sing a song, and then we sang a song. Okay, so that's the irregular verb. Okay, okay. Ring, the phone ring, and then the phone rang. That's the example of item learning. To try learners memorize the grammar rules, specific grammar features or structures. But then learning this verb, and to give you example of like sing and ring. Okay, learning this kind of verb or irregular verbs is very similar to learning individual vocabulary item. It's something similar to you try to remember the vocabulary items. Recitation, okay, recitation, and then the teacher do the dictation, things like that, very similar to that. But like much grammar involves rule learning. That's a way to rule learning. Rule for the formation of English regular past tense, like ed form, verb plus ed form. That rule learning as ed. Learner must acquire the patterns that govern the formation of grammatical structure. Okay. Okay. So that, rule in general. And then another way to say that deduction and induction. When we talk about deduction and induction, it's something like deduct is like you decide your own reason. Deduction, you give something like, specific things and you prove it whether it's the same or similar pattern or not. Okay, so teacher explicitly teach the grammar feature, grammar structure or linguistic feature to the student or to learner, and then prove to whether it's the same or similar or not. For example, you give the student like, okay, if we want to change the present form to past form, just add ed. Okay, and you give more example to prove that, for student to prove that. Okay, and more ed and so on. But induction, you didn't tell student directly. Inductive, like teaching, you do not tell student directly, but you give you know, like maybe a passage or some kind of the text, and then you ask student to try to come up with their own conclusion or draw conclusion from their, you know, like reading or their, you know, like, you know, reading their surveying with a group of friends and help each other learn. So here come again form focus instruction. So there's some gist of difference between form focus and focus on form without S and focus on form with S. Okay, so let's see what kind of teaching, you know, like of grammar you use in your own classroom. When we talk about focus on form, no S, okay, we usually, you know, like focus on meaning. We do not teach, you know, like specific linguistic features or specific grammar rules, you know, to student or to learner. But focus on form with the S or forms with the S. You see, like we usually, you know, like teach, you know, specific grammar rules or linguistic feature to the learner. An example of you know, like focus on form is like grammar translation, because we specific, you know, like teacher tell, okay, this, that, or we use it, blah blah blah, and so on, and things like that. So that the concept of full form focused instruction. Any questions, Kap?
Excuse me, could you please give some text that concern about induction and deduction, right? And
Okay,
we can use like guessing games.
Guessing game, yes, that can be example of that. Okay,
Deduction.
when we the game, you know, like you can see the game you put, you, for example, you teach student about what we say present simple tense or things like that, or past, I would say past form, okay, past simple tense, and you use a game of and then asking student to change, you know, present to past form by adding ed or things like that. And as it can be, but think about this one. Another way to you can use a DDL, okay, DDL approach, data driven learning. DDL, it means you give, you know, a text or maybe one page of reading, and then ask, you want to teach them like if clause or conditional sentence, and you give them the whole page, and then ask student, divide student into group and ask them to come up with the concept of using if clause or conditional if clause. Try them to come up, you know, you bring the text or the reading, you know, article that contain on the consists of the involve, you know, the conditional sentence. You do not teach them anything from the very beginning, but you divide them into group and ask them, you know, to look for or focus on the concept of conditional, okay, or if clause, and then they have to draw a conclusion in their group. Why we need to do, you know, in group, because if you may ask them to do individually, but somehow it's going to be too difficult, right, to some extent. So you a group of 3, a group of 4, things like that, and then they have to present their what they have learned from their reading and tell their classmates, and then teacher will give the conclusion at the end of the class and tell, this is the concept of conditional sentence. We have different form, okay, if plus present simple tense or present tense, and then future form. We have 2 clause in conditional sentence, things like that. But deduction, okay, however, that means teacher tell the form of conditional sentence from the very beginning and give more tasks to the student to practice. Okay, that's the concept of deduction and induction.
Thank you,
Okay, sorry for interrupting, Professor. May I use this occasion to invite the PhD program chair
Okay,
to give a thanks to the special lecturer. So In this occasion, may I invite Associate Professor Dr. Akharapon Maihom, the PhD Program Chair, to thank our special lecturer in a speech. Please welcome ค่ะ
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์ดร. ไซมอนครับ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ So very good morning our guest speaker today, and also my greetings go to my students from Thailand, China and Myanmar. Thank you MC for allowing me to talk to you all of you and deliver a thankful message to our invited speaker today. I'm so sorry I interrupt your lecture, Professor Apisak. I really want to do so, but unfortunately, we have two webinars on the same day today. All right, and the other seminar carried out by professor from America, and he just really available on this day only, not other days. So it is coincident, I would say. However, I just inform my student that I really want to come and give my thankful message to our guest speaker on behalf of Buriram Rajabhat University and also Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, and also the Ph.D. in EP program. I am as the chair. I talked to Dr. Min as well that I really want to come. We would like to keep Dr. Apisak with us as long as possible. All right, he is very kind and also giving us a very insightful talk always. And he now, I would say that he's become our regular professor. I'm not really sure that sooner or later he will come to settle down in Buriram as a permanent teacher at BRU, I guess. Dr. Simon, he got his PhD from Australia. I used to talk to him that maybe in the near future, we might join some projects. That means allow our students from Mahasarakham and BRU to have a very special workshop in Australia in the future. So Ajahn Tak, Ajahn Onsri, are you ready to go there? Ajahn Patana, all right. No,
Yes.
I will recommend you to Khai Suan Yang
More than
first
ready,
and
right?
keep
More than
money.
Yes.
Yeah, we will do it. We will do it soon, all right, in the future after the pandemic of COVID-19 is getting better. We have a lot of plans, a lot of projects that will be co-carried out by BRU and Momoso, all right. Ajahn Apisak, Ajahn Simon always help us do a lot of academic activities, including webinar, workshop, international conference, symposium, etc. So we really appreciate your assistance and academic contributions. On behalf again of Buriram Rajabhat University, HUSOC faculty and PhD EUT program, I would like to invite all of you, please join me in giving a big hand to our invited speaker today for thanking him very so much for his kindness. Thank you so much. ขอบคุณนะครับ
Thank you very much for the invitation, Kap. Okay, it's a great honor for me as well to share my knowledge or expertise in this area, Kap. We are very close friends actually with MSU and BRU, Kap.
Okay, thank you very much. Please allow me to get back to another webinar. All right, just keep going your lecture, and I asked my Associate Dean to record this webinar. If you give us a permission, and then I will send the record links to all my students later on after checking by you as the guest speaker. So thank you so much. See you later. ขอบคุณครับ
ครับ
ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ Okay, let me share the screen again.
Excuse me, sir. Professor. Let me share some information about the class, my class, English Generation Education.
Okay.
I was asked Yeah, I was asked by many students for many years, and every semester that I was asked about the grammar. I taught not English major or other major that why we have to know much about grammar. So because they are from many programs from physics or from mathematics or from whatever that for various major. Then they asked why we have to know the grammar much more than that because they are not English major. So how can we motivate them to learn grammar, sir? Please give us the some advice. So because they actually for general or not English major, they get bored to learn grammar. So every teacher have some kind of this case, right? So how we motivate them to learn grammar?
I think our lecture is got disconnected, right?
Huh? What happened?
It was disconnected.
Maybe because the grammar question.
when we talk about the grammar, so the student getting bored. Oh my God!
Yeah,
it's
right.
grammar again. So everyone get like my problem like this. When we
Yes.
teach other program not English, but if we are English majors, there is a must that we have to learn, right? Program. So where our professor?
You'll join back later, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, so sorry because he told me that his electricity is not good one. Okay, he will come soon. Okay.
Yeah, because I always get this occur.
Because of Mahasarakham province, I think.
Why?
So he has to move to Buriram, maybe.
Because now Ajahn Wasmund is at Mahasarakham, right?
Oh, really?
And Ajahn
Yeah,
Apisak
I live in
too,
Payat.
right?
It's nearly Buriram, just only 65 kilometers away. If we get to Mahasarakham province, just 80 kilometers. So that's why I decided to work here, Buriram Rajabhat University. I love this province. It has story a lot for historical story. So, Professor Dr. Navamin Ka, could you motivate the students to learn grammar, not English major?
Actually, okay, we can motivate them by looking for some activities, right? Right.
So what kind of activity that is maybe the best choice or most suitable choice for them?
Since we are in the CLT, right? So you can use communicative activities. There are a variety of communicative activities, okay, that you can use it.
Because I was asked by students, so why we have to learn much? Because actually we use just only three, for example, for the tense, we just use only three tenses in the communicative society that we use present simple tense, we use past tense, and maybe we use future. So why we have 12 tenses? So that the student asked me, so I cannot answer. I just tell them that just is the rule, is there like grammar regulation of the native speaker, not myself. I didn't set on that kind of rules myself. Yes.
Actually, okay,
I just
for
share
the CFR
information.
level, okay, for general student, right? They can start it just only a simple sentence. Okay,
Yes.
just let them know about that. But if they want to, what is it, to go to more deep detail, right? They can learn, okay, 12. But actually, I think 3 is enough, right?
Yeah.
Past simple tense, okay, present simple
Present
tense,
and
and then
future.
future,
Yes.
right? If they know, okay, about that. Sometime, okay, I just teach them, okay, I mean that inductive way is mean that let them to do some activity, and then after that we can summarize it at the end. Okay, I mean that to summarize about the rules of grammar that we learn. For example, we let them to read the text, okay, and then after that, okay, for the beginner, they can if they can identify, okay, the part of speech, okay, is good one. Okay, so we can start with part of speech from the sentence, right? For example, we can let them to read the newspaper or the short passage, and then let them to answer the question. For example, how many sentences are there? Something like that. Okay, how about the first sentence? What is the subject? Something like, or what is a noun or something like that.
Yes. Okay, thanks you for sharing. And since I was young, before I getting in the English major, I just wonder again that why for the form of language that we are Thai, right? So we know that we use the Thai. We just use, or we don't have the tense anymore. We just use the word yesterday, tomorrow, just that's it. And the sentence is the same. Tomorrow, for example, today I study English. Yesterday I study English, and tomorrow I study English. So we just use the same, like Dr. Chitima said yesterday. But for when I get in an English major, I just know, oh, we have to realize on the tense as well. So tomorrow I will learn, or yesterday I learned something like this. Okay.
Okay, right. So I just talked with Dr. Simon, right? So we can take a break for 15 minutes,
Okay.
and then we will be back around 10:35.
Okay,ค่ะ.
Is it okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
Ajahn
my
Simon,
apologies.
right? I just let them to take a break. 15 minutes. It's okay.
Okay, the electric went out at my place, at my side. Oh, ไฟดับ Electric went out ครับ Sorry, my apology for that.
Okay.
ครับ
Okay, Professor, Doctor.
Okay.
Apisak, right? Well, we just discussed why you are obstacle with the electronics something. We discussed about grammar, that how we motivate the students that is not English major to learn grammar, because when they heard about grammar, so they think that, oh, again grammar again, so we're getting bored, something like that. So how we motivate them to learn?
Okay, that's very good. So we are in a break, right?
Yeah. But you just
Okay.
come up.
Okay,
So
that's
it's
good. I
sorry.
will keep that question. Okay, and then we address or we answer that,
Yes.
or we share after the
Okay.
break. Okay, ครับ
Thank
Okay.
you.
ครับ Oh, okay, ครับ So yes, my apology. Okay, at my side, the electricity went out. it's just, you know, like for a second. So I need to reboot or restart all the computer, all the things. Then when, you know, the electricity came back, the thing is like the internet got a problem here. So like I need to restart again and again, you know, like in order, now it's everything is working okay, all right now. So apologies for that again. My first time experience the electricity went out during the talk.
That's fine. That's okay, Professor. Don't worry, because we always get this kind of obstacle.
It was raining here at Mahasarakham last night. So yeah.
So here in Buriram is overcast, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about in China or in Burma? How's the weather like there? What the weather like there, Kap? Okay. Okay, everyone is back now.
Suman, please.
In China, it's
What's the weather like? Yeah.
it's sunny day in China.
Mhm.
Yes. And what about in Myanmar? What's the weather like? Oh, our professor disappeared again, right? Okay, we went for a while.
Okay. Yeah. Because you got to webinar, right? At Buriram, right? At the same time. Okay. It happened simultaneously, but it's okay. 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 So, okay, let's get started again. So what's the question again, Kap? Can you ask again?
Oh yes, Professor. I just asked that how can we motivate the students not English major to learn grammar? Just short, in short.
Okay. Okay. Regarding teaching grammar, you know, grammar, as we can see, many students feel like uninterested, right? They don't really want to learn, and many, you may be asked something like, why we need to learn grammar, right? Grammar is a part of that, but somehow, because in order to make, you know, like learning grammar interesting, it's very challenge for the teachers. And yeah, there is a research article coming out, you know, like in 2 years ago, perhaps. I can like there is a belief that the grammar should not be taught in the classroom, but actually many teachers, you know, usually focus on grammar. So, but then how can we motivate, as a teacher, motivate learners learn the grammar? So it's depend on the strategy, you know, like depend on the teacher purpose as well. So the first thing, you know, teacher themselves can be a very good motivation for the student as well. So, and also the task or the activity you bring into your class may motivate student to learn. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier about, you know, the task ties or the task activity you bring to class can help them learn. If you know, like if we use the traditional convention of teaching, like, you know, like teacher stand in front of the class and explaining, you know, like the grammar rule to student, that may be, you know, boring to them. So instead of doing that, we should, you know, give more opportunity to students to do activity or to interact with other learners in the class. If, you know, you ask students to move around or get them, you know, like, you know, relaxed, or what we say, ask them to interact with friends, and let them do the acting. They prefer to do that, and that can help to like them learn. But then try something from very easy first. If you bring something too difficult, that can demotivate the student. So bring something easy, and if the student or low proficiency student feel that they can do that, they will get to like they will get motivated to move on and to learn and to share, because they feel many students, particularly those who have low proficiency, like level of English, they may try to avoid or to share or not to share with their classmates. So if they can respond or to get the answer, it's a big motivation for them to move forward. So bring something easy at the very beginning, or simple, easy task, easy to learn, or easy to but like sometimes we think that okay, it's okay for the student, but don't overestimate that. Okay, we bring something easy, and you can observe from that, and then if they can do, everyone can do that, you can move to something more difficult later on.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Any other question or anything to share regarding the grammar, teaching grammar? It's a combination, you see, combination of particular young learner, everyone. If you teach young learner may need, like clear explanation of the grammar rules, right? But then later on, you can, move from something explicit to something, like, and shifting it to something unexplicit, okay, or implicit, okay. So, adult learner, for example, if you go ESP class, like non-English major student, and usually they use English for specific purpose or communicative purposes, like engineering student or business student. So we need to bring tasks or things that relevant to or to their field of study. Like in the office, what kind of English, what types of English or vocabulary used in business section or department. And then if they see the importance, realize the importance of the English, they will want to learn more about that, and they may participate or pay more attention to that. And then the vocabulary also very important, and we will talk about that in a minute. Okay. Very interesting, point or issues here for doctoral students or those who want to do, like dissertation relevant to English for specific purpose. Okay, you can focus on this kind of thing, like vocabulary for English specific purpose, like for business student, for engineering student. Okay, you can pay attention to this, if you want to focus on it. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Okay, everyone, when we talk about vocabulary, so vocabulary considered a very essential component of mastering a second language. And here come to practitioners, researcher, and also like a language classroom teacher. So the first question may be, what vocabulary should be taught, right, in a language classroom? So a lot of questions, there. So like most vocabulary knowledge is explicit. Also, we know the meaning, we know the form, and what else do we need to know in order to be able to use the vocabulary in our daily communication? Which word should be taught? We have no idea. Teacher bring whatever they have in mind to the class, but then that word may not be necessary for student, may not be very helpful, because we determine, we judge from our experience. You see, you say, I teach this words to my student because I think it's necessary, but in reality or in practice, that may not, right? So, and then how are we going to teach vocabulary to our student? See, there's a lot of question there, right? Do they have any experience or difficulty with determining, which word should be taught for your student? Any experience, Kap? Anything to share?
Yes,
Anything?
Professor.
Okay. Yes.
I'm Wantana. For my our own experience from vocabulary, actually, if I focus on reading, then first I have to choose the correct appropriate reading for students based on their background or the lesson plan on that day. Then the vocabulary will be chosen to teach them later in any kind of way. Like for myself, it depends on group of students also. Like for non-credit students in genet subjects, I used to do like kind of word dictation, let them try to understand or how to spell each word, then followed by the meaning of each single one. Then after that, yes, just I try to focus on the passage later. This for my point of view.
Okay, that's good. So we have two main types of vocabulary learning, right? So intentional learning, okay, and incidental learning, vocabulary learning. So depends, right? Depends on. Oh, that's very good one, Kap. Any other opinions or experience, Kap, of sharing this?
Professor, yeah, you first, Sumang.
You, yeah. You went, yeah, after you, yes.
Yeah, and here I think that there are so many vocabularies in English, and for the vocabularies that frequently appear in our daily life, I will teach those words to the students. And for the vocabularies will not frequently appear, I will just omit them. And when teaching vocabularies, I just advise my students to learn the vocabulary from the context in the sentence, and not just memorize the word one by one. And maybe then they can learn the vocabularies easily, and can also learn how to use the words in the sentence or in the paragraph in the exactly context. That's my own experience. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's a good option, a good strategy. Yes, next, please.
Professor, in my class, I teach my students by doing some activities such as matching games, So they learn vocabularies incidentally, and after that, after doing these activities, so they have to learn automatically, and they write them down on their book. And then sometimes I teach them vocabulary by using reliable objects or reading. Sometimes I ask them to read the passage, and from them they have to learn vocabulary by how can I say, but the context near the words, and how to what form is it, and yes, this is my.
Okay, that's another good strategy. Okay, so when you teach them, okay, based on your strategy, does that work? Does your teaching of vocabulary or vocabulary teaching works from your point of view? You think it's working? or any other problems? When you teach, you use that kind of strategy. Any challenge or any difficulty in your language classroom?
Yes, sometimes when when doing activities, so we have yes, we have to I need to manage my time properly. So it takes some time, but they have to learn vocabulary happily because they have to do activities. So they learn. They can learn incidentally. Yes.
Yes, of course it takes time, right, to learn vocabulary. But then as a teacher, we teach our student in class, we don't have much time. Actually, we have a few hours a week. So that's a problem, right? A problem for teachers as well. So because like research show that we need to meet the same word many times in order to remember it, right? But then we have very limited time. So how can we help our student remember and the word, and then being able to recall and use it in their daily conversation? That's the problem. It's a big challenge for all vocabulary learning, also teachers, to teach the student. Okay, so that's a problem. Then we come, to the concept of, vocabulary learning, and then how to teach it. Okay, the next one that I would like to point out, in terms of vocabulary learning. So when we talk about vocabulary learning, here come, two concepts, like vocabulary size and the vocabulary depth of vocabulary knowledge. So in terms of, we usually talk and hear the word, vocabulary size. So in terms of vocabulary learning, we often hear the question like, how much vocabulary do we need to know? How much vocabulary do we need to know if we want to be able to use English in our in our daily life? So if you need to answer this question, how many words do we need to know from your thinking? Let's guess, everyone.
10,000 more.
10,000 or more. Okay. Okay. What about other?
6,000.
6,000. Okay.
8,000.
10,000. Okay. 2,000. Okay. So the answer, I would say, the answer is, we say, depends. It depends on your purpose. What do you need vocabulary for? Right? What do you need it for? Right? So, but then my question to everyone here is like, every one of you here is like, how many words do you think you know now? Can you estimate your vocabulary size?
For me, just maybe 8,000, I think.
Okay, can be, right? Okay, we don't know because we don't know for sure, right? We just get how much we know, right?
I think it's up to our age, right? And our teaching too. For example, if I teach in a grade 1, right, it should be about 10,000 words, right? But we teach at grade 6, right? It should higher than that. Depends on age and then grade.
Okay, that's good. The concept is that vocabulary learning is incremental. So our vocabulary size increase according to learners' education levels. Okay, so when you learn more and then you know more the word, and your vocabulary knowledge increase according to your education level from primary to secondary. So we do not learn the vocabulary or aspect of vocabulary at the same time. We learn, like, it's not about known or unknown. but we develop our knowledge, like some partials of vocabulary items are learned before others. We do not learn all aspects of the same word at the same time. We develop it, little by little. So that's why the concept of vocabulary learning is, we learn it, we develop our knowledge, we gradually develop our knowledge. Okay. So here, what we know, okay, based on the research. The research, on vocabulary learning show that, like we need around 98% of the word of the text, okay, in order to gain sufficient comprehension of the written text. When we want to read a text or any kind of text, you read a book or whatever, you need, to know around 98 words of our 100. So that means within 100 words, you need to know around 98 words. So 2 words are difficult, or maybe 2 words are unknown to you, or you are not familiar with it. In order to gain sufficient or adequate comprehension without vocabulary being a problem. That's for reading for pleasure, okay? But not for teaching, right? Teaching maybe less than that, because the textbook maybe like 95 something, because like teacher helps student learn as well. But if you want to read, the books or any kind of materials, maybe the novel or whatever yourself, like you need around 98% text coverage. That means every 15 words, only 1 word is unknown. I mean, you are not familiar with that. Research also showed that university student or native English speaker or advanced native learner, university student know about 20,000 words. Actually, around 17,000 words, okay, based on, Golden Nation and Read 1999. You see, native speaker knows around 20,000 words, you see. Okay, yeah, and then, but then, if you want to be able to use English in your everyday conversation or everyday communication, you go to the market, you go to the shopping mall, wherever, you talk to people, you need around 2,000 to 3,000 words in order to carry out your conversation with other people. Okay, if you want to go anywhere, like go overseas or whatever, and talk, things in general, and to carry out, like I'll understand basic conversation, need around 2,000 to 3,000 words. But then if you want to read academic text or discussion like we are doing here, okay, the lecture or things, you need to know around 6,000 to 7,000 words. That's the baseline for understanding, the spoken discourse, understanding, the lecture and things like that. But for reading, in order to understand, literature or novels or magazine or most, general reading in your daily life, okay, you need around 8,000 to 9,000 words. Okay, in order to understand that, if you bring the text, for example, you say you teach your student reading, course or reading for a specific purpose, make sure that the coverage of the text, is suitable for your student level. So make sure that not many difficult words, appear in the text that you bring to your class. Okay, otherwise student won't, may not want to read that because it's too difficult for them. So that's the target of vocabulary needed or necessary for L2 learner to know in order to carry out their communication or for a specific purpose. But the other way around, you see, research show that L2 learner know just, about, like 2,000 to 4,000 words. Like Chinese student knows around, university student majoring in English know around 4,000 words. For Thai, one research, I would say back then in 2009, know around 2,000 words. Thai engineering, student at the university know around 2,000 words only. So what about, your student? You think about your student, how much vocabulary do they know? And then if you know your student level, the text that you bring to your student or to your class must be suitable or proper for their level, right? But then here come to the question, or arise the question that, so what vocabulary do we need to teach our student? Do you have that in your mind? Like, so because like as a teacher, right, we need to determine or figure out ourselves. So which word should we teach our student? You have no idea because the textbook do not tell you exactly, or the textbook do not provide the guidelines or enough information or the guideline for you to do, right, to follow. So we need to make the decision ourselves. So it's very challenging, very challenging for the practitioner or teachers, including researcher, to do that, to decide, okay, which word should we bring into class and teach students. And we have to understand that how many words or how much vocabulary our student, your own student knows about that. So here the guideline based on research. Here Nation 2013 said divide vocabulary into category. The category are into high frequency vocabulary and low frequency. In terms of high frequency refer to easy vocabulary. Why we say it is easy? It is easy simply because these vocabulary items or words usually appears or mostly appear in general text, high frequency or or mostly occur in the text, in general text. The first 2,000 or 3,000 word families or the first 2,000 high frequency word are easy word, and learner need to know these words first before they moving on to do or to learn other words. So that why make sure your student know the first 2,000 words. If not, you need to focus on this. So these 2,000 frequency words need to be taught explicitly in your classroom. If not, you teach them, bring activities that help your student learn these target words. Make sure they know it, they remember the meaning, they know how to spell it, and then they know how to use it. They can recall it and use it in their conversation or in their classroom activity before you move on to do something else, okay? But what about the other words? Like, what about the word beyond the first 2,000 or 3,000? So anything else, okay, based on nation, low frequency vocabulary. So do we need to teach? We may not teach low frequency words explicitly. We may teach them or help our student learn or address it some way. Some way that means we can ask them to learn or teach them strategy. Like maybe some of you just mentioned that you use kind of like strategy, guessing the unknown word from or using the context clue. Okay, guessing using the word part, prefixes or suffixes, and guess the meaning from the context or part of speech or things like that. Okay, so prioritize the word or teach them if necessary. We need to teach them, right? The high frequency word. Okay, so the next one, based on Smith and Smith 2012, they divide into 3 different groups. Okay, high frequency vocabulary, mid frequency vocabulary, and low frequency. So again, the first 3,000. You will see Smith, Schmidt say that, or classify the first 3,000 high frequency word. Okay. Sorry, my Thai is like I just put short one high, not say hello, but high. I misspell it. Okay, I misspell it. Okay. A frequency word. The first 3,000 are considered high frequency vocabulary items, and these need to be, taught explicitly in your classroom. But if you teach university student, an English major student or so, or maybe non-English major student, but then you can check, you can measure or test your student vocabulary size. And if you find that their vocabulary size is, about 3,000 or maybe higher than that, you don't need to teach that. You need to move on to the next level, like mid frequency, like between 3,000 to 9,000. You need to help them, teach them strategy or how to guess the meaning of unknown word using word parts, prefixes, or maybe, like train them some strategy. Okay, or the strategy, how can we know? Depend on, you, the researcher or the teacher, determine which strategy should be working very well or effectively in your context. Because different contexts, right, may use different strategy. But research show that, including my own research, actually show that using word parts, okay, word part or prefix, suffix, help students learn effectively. You can speed up learning strategy by using word part, okay, that can help, almost 50%, faster than other strategy. And low frequency word, we don't need to teach actually. You ask to train them. If you train them, make sure that the training strategy, you scaffold, right? You scaffold your student, you build up some, you train in something, make sure they can use it themselves. They can become an autonomous learner. Don't assume that, they already know that, train them until they are familiar with that. Like you have to do some training course sometimes, like for pre-service English teacher and also in-service, even in-service teachers, right? They need some training along the way. Like that can be said as professional development training. They need that. So train your English or student, teacher student, I would say, train them. Even we need to train ourselves as well, or how to deal with this kind of vocabulary learning. Because to date or up to now, research, or we still have debating issues. Like we cannot say which teaching, a method is the most effective way of teaching vocabulary. We still, we have no conclusion about the best method of teaching vocabulary yet. We don't know yet, because different contexts may use different teaching methodology in order to achieve the best outcome, learning outcome. Okay. So any question, any question or anything to share about teaching vocabulary or learning vocabulary in our classroom? You can download, okay, the vocabulary list online. If you have no idea that, okay, how can we know which one is high frequency word, which one is low frequency word? Okay, you can download, it's free there online from the website. You can do the Google search and find that there. Okay, or you can use the test. It's online, okay, available online as well. Vocabulary site test. Okay, no one shares your experience. So now you know how to teach. Actually, when we talk about vocabulary, vocabulary relate to form, meaning, and use. So the form and meaning link is the initial state, the beginning stage of learning. Okay, you can see some students can know and understand how to spell the word, right? And they know the meaning, but they don't know how to use it. Some students know the meaning of the word, but they don't know how to spell it correctly. So that's why we say the link between form and meaning is in initial, like, or beginning state of learning. So as a teacher, we need to, bring activities or come up with a strategy in order to help them, like to develop platform for them, to develop their knowledge of the target vocabularies. And if you teach, non-English major student, you can find any activities that related to that area, their discipline. Okay. So we have some problem. I'd love to share with everyone here. We usually teach students in Thai eval context, for example, we have the list for the student. Even me, myself, 10 years ago, I asked my student to remember all the words in the list and then do the dictation. Good student can remember the words very effectively, very well, but low proficiency student cannot remember. And the vocabulary list make them feel bored and do not want to learn English, right? So that's why we need to find activity or how to help them learn rather than remembering. Okay, remote learning or things like that. We need to find activity to help them learn little by little. The tasks are considered very important in terms of teaching vocabulary, and also vocabulary also like indicate syntactic or grammatical function as well. We learn parts, word parts, and which part should be used in this sentence and which part shouldn't used. So that's very important because one word can indicate the grammar or grammatical functions of the word as well. Anything to share about vocabulary? All clear? But then we know it, but we don't teach our students that way, right? Because we follow the rules, traditional way of teaching, right? Many of us, still, use, traditional way. We keep saying, Ajahn, we have to change. We focus on student learning. Okay, student center approach or learning or teaching approach. But then again, many times we focus on teacher center approach. Like students talk a lot in the classroom, right? 1 hour, how many minutes? Teacher talk maybe a lot, right? 40 minutes explaining grammar rules to the student. But then just only a few minutes, student talk. So how can our student improve their language? Because teacher improve the language rather than student improve, right? Because teacher talk more than student do. Isn't it? All right. Then moving on to pronunciation. Do you teach pronunciation to your student in your language class? Do you teach?
Yes, actually. Yes, of course, sir.
Okay. So let's share your experience, everyone. When you teach the pronunciation, how you teach the pronunciation to your student? Can you share your teaching method?
Could I share about my right? In my class, right? I try to use like some song and then what song and game and films, right, to them, right? And then let them to learn from the songs, right? Pronunciation.
Use a song, right?
Yes, song. And then let them to fill in the gaps of blank words, right? Yeah.
So that
Because,
means you open like the song, okay, or maybe the
yes.
video or whatever, and then you have some kind of gap filling
Gap.
activities, okay,
Yes.
and then
And
let them hear it, and then if they catch the word, they can fill that in the gap, right? Okay, in the gap.
yes. I have 3 parts. The first one is I just let them hear first.
Okay.
They will learn from hearing, but I don't give them any tasks, right? But for the route through, I give them sheets or the worksheets, right? And then they can fill in the gaps on the blanks, right? And they can check about the mistakes or correction. Thank you.
Okay, good. What about other people, Kap? Do you have any
Excuse me,
experience in?
sir.
Yep.
Yes, let me share for my class as well for general education, English for communication
Okay.
subject. In Buriram Rajabhat University, we used World Link textbook. It's a commercial book like Ajahn Pathanan, right? For pronunciation, we also have like electronic device that the student can check the pronunciation, how to straight, how to pronounce that word, some kind of words by checking for the electronic device for that kind of textbook they provide us. Yes. We use some kind of, because we have many accents, so whatever accent we are, so we can learn from the native speaker as well. Yeah, and then try them to practice in classroom or imitate that word to pronounce. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good, very good. Okay, very good, Kap. Okay, let's see. Do we need to, is it necessary for us to teach the pronunciation or how to pronounce the word directly or explicitly to the student? What do you think, Kap, everyone? Do we need, is it necessary for us to teach the pronunciation directly or explicitly in our class?
Yes, I think it's very important to teach them how to pronounce correctly. Yes,
okay.
because of an English word is focused on the final sound. So if we mispronounce of the final sound, so it will be changed to other words or other meaning at all.
Okay.
I think it's very important that we have to.
Okay. What about other people, Kap? You think it's necessary or unnecessary?
In my opinion, I think is unnecessary, because I think like we should let the student learn by themselves. Like we help them how to learn. Like we at the first time, like we guide them the pronunciation of the words, and after that, like let them learn by themselves. Yeah, because there are many words or vocabulary that we could not like teach them all the time. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, to me, okay, it depends, I would say, because we have limited time on in our class, right? So it depends on the activity that you bring into your own class or maybe your classroom. The pronunciation might be necessary sometime, and you need to teach it explicitly or directly to student, particularly young learner, right? Make it natural. But then for adult learner, maybe, yes, as you say, maybe not necessary to teach them unless some particular word that need to be, like you need to show them how to act. But somehow today or nowadays we have become like global Englishists. The purpose of maybe like English as a lingua franca, we focus on the communication or somehow like the meaning or meaningful message. So we don't mind about, you know, the accent or how you pronounce the word or the accent you have or you process. We focus on the meaning, as long as, you know, you are, you know, the people you are talking to understand your English. That means your communication is successful. So mainly we focus on the meaning rather than the form or the pronunciation, because people speak differently, right? Even we Thai, okay, people speak English, they speak Thai or speak Chinese or speak your own language. We have different accent. So as long as you know, like the communication or your accent is clear enough to people, to other people or interlocutor, the message is successful. So yes, sometimes necessary to teach them directly. Many times maybe not. So depends on, you know, the purpose of the class activity. Okay.
Could I could I try to sum up from what you said, right?
Okay.
It depends on our pedagogy, right? Because if we teach English as a native language, it's very important. But if we teach English as a foreign words, right? I think the accent is not important. Because the main points of that is like you said, from we world Englishes, right? If we can speak out and learn from each others, that's fine, right? That's the main theme.
Yes. But if you know, like for young learner, yes. Okay, the beginning stage of learning, very important, I would say, learner or young learner need to hear the word correctly. Okay, and then, you know, that later on, maybe not, you know, like for adult learner, you need to, maybe they focus on meaning, on the meaning rather than the form. Okay, so depends on the level of education or the level of the student. Okay, and also like the purpose, okay, of your teaching.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Can we say that if we talk about vocabulary or want to teach the meaning of vocabulary from the previous one, then we have to follow by this step. That I mean, we have to focus some part of teaching have to focus on pronunciation also, right?
Yes, yeah. Usually, you know, like students pick up the pronunciation from what they hear. Okay, from what you hear. So, for example, they hear the teacher pronounce the word, or they hear from the music, they hear from the movie or whatever, you know. So they pick up the pronunciation there or the accent from there. And also from vocabulary, if you teach the vocabulary directly, usually, you know, like it's come along with the word, you know, like when you pronounce it, because you straight the word, you know, to your student, and then the student can pick that up, you know, like from what the teacher say, right? And also like the way that if you teach, you know, vocabulary, like you ask students to do, you know, vocabulary learning, you know, incidentally, or they read themselves. So when they read themselves, they read it silent, you know, silently. So they don't, you know, like we don't focus on form, right? On pronunciation in that way, because they read, you know, themselves, so they read it quietly. So, but then they hear, they learn, they pick up the pronunciation from what they hear, from the music they are listening to, and so on. So we as the teacher or classroom language teacher, it depends on your purpose or what you want students to take, you know, home from your lesson, right? So variety of activities, you know, it depends on the focus of the instruction, the aim of the instruction. But, you know, research, you know, many research study do not focus on you know, like pronunciation that much recently. Okay, because like it's a part of that. Is a part of that, but not much research has been paid attention to this area.
Professor, actually, if we want to focus on just only reading is one of English skill, right? But finally, we gonna start with vocabulary also, from the function, from the meaning, and some part of that one we will talk about pronunciation. Like you just mentioned, it depends on the purpose of teaching on that time, on that day.
Yeah, and you can see there as a what is essential is for learners to be understood. Okay, the focus on meaning to be understood rather than the sound like native speaker. But somehow I would say a long belief, like people believe, strong belief. We have strong belief about the pronunciation, and some people very, we say that respect or adore those who speak like a native. But actually, those who speak like a native may have, we have, maybe like speak ungrammatically, I will say, but the sound is like a native, but contain a lot of mistake, grammatical mistake there. Somehow the meaning still okay, right? Meaning still okay. So that means the communication is successful. But some people speak, with all, like grammatically correct, like in their speaking, but the sound is like not, the sound not similar to the native or different from the native. I can see that many non-native speakers respect or adore those who speak like a native, but with, with we say like ungrammatically, sentences. So we need to change that as a teacher. So sometimes we need to to ignore, the pronunciation. But if you see a lot of mistake there, hear the student repeating, saying, thing or pronounced, the pronunciation is wrong, repeatedly, maybe the teacher need to step in and correct. Okay. But sometimes we need to ignore, and or the mispronounced word. Okay. Right. Okay. That's for this. Moving on to pragmatics. Okay, the pragma. Do we need do you need pragmat? Do you teach pragmatics in your classroom? Everyone, do you teach this? Instructed SLA or instructed language. Do we need? Is it necessary for us to teach pragmatics? Or what does it mean by pragmatics from your point of view, Kap?
Practice.
Practice.
How to convey the meaning.
How to convey the meaning. Yes.
It means is it the rule of us that try to let them learn from themselves? Like give them tasks to do their tasks, right? Both inside and outside class.
Okay.
I know that's the highest level of the linguistic things, right?
Yes. All right. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Supporting to our Asst Tatiya is for like English major. Yeah, for learning pragmatic.
Okay. Okay, everyone. If you are thinking about your research topic for your doctoral thesis or dissertation, I would recommend this area. Like we need to know more, and I do believe, I would say personally, we lack of knowledge about, or lack of research about pragmatics. So actually, pragmatics involved how a language used in real context. Okay, real situation or real communication. We learn how to use the language in our classroom. What, because the language relevant to the culture as well. Okay, so we lack of awareness in this kind of pragmatics. You see, for example, I'll give you an example. The language we use, okay, with our friends is different from the language we used with our professor. You see, in terms of vocabulary, we talk about register or the politeness, level of politeness between the conversationers or conversationists or interlocutors. Okay, the language you use with your friends and the language you use with your professor, or the language the customer or the waiter use with the customer at a restaurant, also different from the language they use with the manager or maybe their colleagues, things like that. You see, the level of politeness in context. That's the other way. So you see, like, so we need to be aware of this when we learn the language. So pragmatic knowledge is generally considered to consist of two components, based on Taguchi. Actually, there's one of my PhD students doing research about intercultural communication. Okay, and then the two concepts there, two components. Though the first one is pragmatic linguistic knowledge, and the second one is socio-pragmatic. So this kind of knowledge is about, pragmatic linguistic knowledge consists of knowing the pragmatic effects of different linguistic elements. For example, English model like can, may, must. Okay, model English, like can, may, must, or should convey different levels of obligation. You use the word can and could or should, showing something, mean, something different there, right? Because if you say you must do this or you should do this, you see the different of modal verb. So this, we need to be aware of this in terms of using, like the linguistic knowledge. So the knowledge about the grammar itself or the language itself. Socio-pragmatic, we consider the context or the social context when we use, the language. Okay,ครับ, let's share, everyone, let's share what you learned from this,ครับ. And I have a lot of experience, like dealing with this, even my student write in email, you write the email in writing, right? And then a lot of my student write me an email, or I send the email to my student and my student say, noted with thanks. You see, it is a proper way to say that to the professor. What do you think? I write an email to my student, dear student, and so on. I have the beginning, like statement or saying or salutation, and then I have the ending, like what. But then when my student respond to my email and say thanks, and that's it, nothing else, noted with thanks. What do you think about this? What do we learn about this, Kap?
It's a language used.
Mm-hmm. Okay, they use a very informal language, right? Level of formality, I would say formality. You think it's a good way to do that? Is it right or wrong? Is it right or wrong to do that, to say that in the email, in your writing? What do you think, everyone?
Well, if we write the email to professor, or we should say like well noted, thank you, sir. Yes, it's more polite than you say noted, thanks, because thanks we use for the same level. I mean, if we talk to the friends or the student, we can use thanks. Yes.
Okay, that's good. What about other opinion? What do you think about this message, this situation?
Yes, Professor. Email is kind of written form. That means we have to consider about the language that we use in that, especially like a social status that we send to a professor. So that's the point. It's some kind of formal language or written form instead of kind of paper, right? But we send this through the online devices, so we have to focus on this.
Okay, that's good. Okay, everyone. I would say what I just explained to you there, the answer to that concept is, I would say, no right, no wrong. Okay, the student can say thanks and that's it. Okay, no ending, no greeting. Okay, or they noted with thanks. So these kind of things, okay, of language use, we say no right, no wrong with this. The issue here, or the interesting point, is that it's a matter of politeness or proper language use or not. Whether the language used there in the email is proper or improper, suitable or not suitable in this context. So when we talk about pragmatic, that's the example of pragmatics. Even the language used in your speaking and the language used in your writing are different somehow. In terms of speaking, we just focus on the meaning, what you want to convey, what you want to send the message out to the receiver one, okay, the one who received the message. And in terms of writing, whatever even your thesis writing or your emailing or email writing, things in terms of writing must be very formal, should be academic or should be formal. Okay, so that why some word we can use in our speaking a lot, I would say, but then we cannot use in our academic writing, in your thesis. For example, the word luckily or fortunately or happily, we use a lot in our speaking, but we cannot use it in our thesis because it's very subjective, very personal, right? You say luckily or happily. You may feel very happy when you write your thesis, but then think about the reader, the one who receive or who read your thesis. Do they really feel happy about your writing or your thesis, right? So we try to avoid that kind of thing. So that why pragmatics need to be aware in our language as well. We need to learn about that. So that why intercultural communication is another interesting issue or area of research nowadays. Okay, and those you teach your student not English major, maybe business English student or maybe engineering student, you need to be aware of it, and then you can explain this, or it's about implicit or explicit teaching there. Very important, I would say. And another interesting area of research. Go for it if you want to do for your dissertation or research project.
Could I have some question?
Yes, please.
Okay, for the issue of pragmatics, right? We can say that socio-linguistics is a part of it.
Sociolinguistic, yes, that can be depend on how you define it, okay? Because like sociolinguistic is about the language used in society, also okay, in community.
And is it the same with like you said, so socio-pragmatic, same?
Yes, how a language used in society or community. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very interesting. And I do believe that if you do this kind of thing, you will be able to publish your research article in Scopus Index journals. I think many journals are very welcome for the your article.
Because I see you raised one example of yourself, not with thanks, right? I think it's concerned about the social context.
Yes. And also the interpersonal skill, like okay, it depends on the person you are sending the message to, right? We think about, okay, who are you going to send the email to, or things. You can do this at your thesis as well. The language used in email. If you are in a what we say, if you are a lecturer in the business, you know, like English, business English or things like that, okay, because it's relevant to your area, right? You can focus on that. Doing research about email and can finish a degree, okay? But you have to well design your research, okay? Plan it, you know, very carefully, you know, about that, and then everything will be okay. As long as the methodology, your research methodology is valid and reliable. Interesting one. Very interesting, very good. Good to hear more from every one of you there. Okay, if you haven't shared anything yet, please feel free to share. Okay.
Yes, I saw our professor, Dr. Navamin Prashanan, to share in area of linguistic in our chat box.
Okay.
Thanks to our professor as well.
Okay. The macro one is a big one, right? It's big one. We have macro and micro, so that's a big one. Very interesting. So you see, if you are interested in this area, you know who you are going to talk to, right? Yes, the Professor Navamin can be your thesis, your dissertation advisor. Okay, you can see there. You know, like the person that you can talk to. Yes. Okay, that's good. And then moving on to individual differences. Okay, we need to keep this in mind when we develop or think about instructed second language acquisition, or ISLA. Because learners are different and all learners are different in their own way. Okay, in their own way. So in addition to investigating the issue or challenge related to learning specific area of language, ISLA research had examined the role of individual differences in L2 classroom learning. It is clear that some individual differences are less relevant for language teaching. This is because there is little that teacher can do to manipulate them or learner. For example, the area of language aptitude or ability and other cognitive abilities such as working memory have been widely investigated in ISLA research. But the teachers can do very little in the classroom to improve. You see, teacher can do very little in the classroom in order to improve learner language aptitude or working memory. Although there have been, pedagogical suggestion that different types of instruction might be offered or given to learners with different cognitive ability or language ability. This option may be impractical for individual teachers who most likely have students with a range of language ability in their classroom, mix of language ability, right? Okay, level. So a better option or better choice might be vary or might be different, some instruction, so that different instructional technique or teaching techniques and activity benefit learners with different language abilities. I would say there are individual differences such as motivation, willingness to communicate, anxiety, and learner beliefs. The teacher can do something about it. We can do something about it. For example, motivation has long been considered to be a crucial component for L2 learning success or achievement. There are different theoretical perspectives on L2 learning motivation, and it is beyond, the scope or what we talk. We won't go in detail right now. What is important for ISLA here, or instructed second language acquisition, is what the teacher can do to increase our learner motivation or our student motivation, so that learner or student put more attempt or effort in order to increase their learning ability. So more recent research include empirical examination of pedagogical interventions designed to increase L2 learners' motivation. You can look at, like more details from Donye, like research about self-motivation if you are interested in this area. Okay. For example, like research into motivational strategy the teacher used in the classroom has found a correlation between strategy used and learner L2 motivation. There's some correlation there. Okay. You can look at that. Okay, related to motivation. Okay, or you can use some technique or effective technique to increase your student motivation or self-image can serve as a roadmap for their future learning endeavor or attempt. Regarding motivation, is the concept of willingness to communicate. This can be another area of research. Willingness to communication. How whether student happy to communicate or to share things in the classroom or not, right? So in theory, I would say in theory, there is a debate or discussion as to whether willingness to communicate is a stable personal trait. SL1 research seems to indicate that if a is about psychological construct, because when we talk about willingness or happiness to communicate, it's about very abstract. It's about personal trait, right? In terms of communication. But another individual difference that the teacher can influence in is anxiety. It's about anxiety to speak or speaking anxiety or writing anxiety. You can do research about speaking anxiety. Students feel excited, or excited to speak. It's about worrying, okay? That can influence the effectiveness of speaking. I think one student at my program at my university is doing research about speaking anxiety, and another student doing research about writing anxiety. So they are developing the proposal about that. So if you are interested in this area, or anxiety, language anxiety, can be foreign language anxiety, or foreign language speaking anxiety or writing anxiety depends on your interest, right? Then this kind of anxiety, Oxford is a big name in this area, learning strategy, argue that removing learners' negative assumption and increasing their own responsibility for L2 learning lead to positive psychology, which in turn affect L2 learning behavior. Similar to willing to communicate, anxiety is relevant or related to classroom interaction. Because if students are anxious, okay, they may not participate or join classroom interaction. Keep that in mind, right? You remember that classroom interaction is very important to promote learning. But then if students have anxiety, they are unlikely to participate in classroom activity. If they do not participate, I mean, they are unlikely to learn. Correct? Oh, right. Okay. So that's become a problem for the teacher. So teacher should work harder. Why harder? Because teacher should work harder in that case in order to reduce or minimize student anxiety, so as or in order to increase their positive psychology or a positive their thinking, right? To increase their confidence or to facilitate their language learning in the classroom. So another individual difference that can be influenced by a teacher or language teacher is learner belief. Okay, there's a belief, like concept. Learner belief is very important in learning a second language. You see, because some students feel, oh, Ajahn, I don't want to learn because I don't know why I need to learn English. What should I learn for? Why do I need to learn English? Because that's about the belief. If the student have passion about learning, they may, like look for a strategy in order to improve their own learning, right? So some studies have shown that student expectation about L2 learning can influence what they will learn in the classroom. I'll give you an example, everyone. If students expect explicit grammatical instruction or teaching from the teacher, they are provided with communicative interaction, they may not feel that they are learning anything. Especially if the teacher do not explain the importance of communicative practice. Okay? Because they feel they are not learning because they want to learn grammar, but then they want to learn how to speak, but teacher focus on grammar. It's not matched. It does not match. It does not match the purpose of their aim, right? So to that end, it is important for teacher to be aware that teaching favored by learners may not be the most effective, or this favored teaching may have positive impact on L2 learning. It is also clear that there are some individual differences that affect L2 learners in the classroom. And second language acquisition researchers have spent a lot of effort to theorize this concept. Okay, so all of this is just like this kind of factor or individual difference can influence language learning, and all of us here need to keep in mind when we develop our lesson plan. And also learning conditions are also important. You need to keep in mind when you develop your proposal or your teaching proposal. Like you need to think about your learner. Are they young or are they old? Adult learner or young learner? Because different age may process language learning in different ways. The amount of time you have in your classroom, how many hours you teach, would that be enough? If not, how can you help your learner more opportunities to interact with the target language? Whether you teach your student in a classroom or you allow them, you give them opportunity to exercise or to use English in a natural setting, or how can you develop, like the activity for them to make them, give them more chance to use the language. Okay, or exposure to modify or adaptive input. You say modify input or adapted. Sometimes we say foreign talk. The concept of foreign talk of teaching English is that, you see, even the student learn with native speaker, but the language is modified or changed. Why they change? The teacher change the language. They use or they speak to their own friends. Okay, make it easier to understand. We use more complex form or make it natural when we talk to our friends, right? But then when we talk to students, we make it easier. We use the easy word in order to make it clearer for the student to be understood. Okay. You may use more complex when you talk to another native speaker, but then when you talk to your student, you modify the language, you change the language. The language may not be natural. Not natural because to make it easier, you use the word that you normally don't use in your daily life, simply because you want to make it easier for the student to understand it. So modify it, okay? Or that's the concept of foreign talk. Depend on, you see, the classroom or the student level of language proficiency. Okay, before I end up morning session, so I would like to conclude that this morning session, or what we have said about, like ISLA, maybe I would say many benefits of, things that we talk about ISLA researchers and ELT instructor, because they're the link between the two, right? ISLA. We talk about ISLA or instructed second language acquisition. Usually we talk about teaching in second language classroom. So ISLA researcher, clearly need L2 teacher and learners in order to conduct research if you want to do this. But we should also listen to teacher concern and perspective in order to better understand the classroom context. However, we can benefit, or the teacher can benefit from the systematic investigation into ISLA. Clearly, they should, or the teacher should not, accept all research. We listen to acknowledge the research, but with the growing number of research, and meta-analysis, teachers are in we are in the better position to benefit from the research, findings. You see, keep this in mind. We don't need to, like accept all the things based on the research, right? But we need to understand our own, context or the condition of learning we have some limitation, right? Because different classroom may need different strategy to carry on the instruction. So that's it, for the morning session, Cup. Any other things that you would love to share before we go for lunch? I actually myself, we acknowledge that I get, like hungry now. I need, food actually now. So I feel like starving. And, I look, for some food or snacks, around me, but I want to nip it, but then I feel a bit concerned that everyone will feel, like hungry, along with me. So yeah, bear with me, if you see I, grab something and put it into my mouth,
Okay, this is my last one. Okay, could you back to the 5 concepts, right? It can say that for these 5 ones, right, is under the part of socio-pragmatics and socio-linguistics, right? And could I put the concept number 6? Because now our class, right, has LGBTQ sex, right? Okay, can I put to be number 6 concept?
What do you mean number 6? This one, right?
Yes, because can I say that now we have our class like LGBTQ plus, right? And these types are very individual difference. Can I put?
Okay. Individual difference. If you mention about you mentioned LGBTQ
plus,
okay,
yeah,
or things that's that's another issue, another aspect of like individual difference. So of course we need to know, like our learners, our student, right? So variety of genders there. Gender is a part of, individual difference in terms of second language learning or acquisition. That's a part of that very, very, very interesting one as well. And one of my students doing research about queer learner, okay, or LGBT, that's, like, and, we got, like, we published that article and we got accepted very, very quickly. And more people reading that article because they are, because, like, very interesting. You see, even my own student, like, or LGBTQ, things like that. And then they learn the language faster than, like, your male or female. So we need to, you can do research about asking about what kind of strategy they use in order to learn better, right? You can see that many outstanding students, like learning English, very fast, and they consider them as not male or female, but LGBT things. That's variety of, like, or genders also play an important role in learning a second language. Very interesting, Kap.
Thank you, Ka.
Okay, thank you, P. on Siri for questions, and thank you, Professor, for the answering the question as well. So it's time for lunch, and we'll be back in 1 p.m. right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So we will come back, in the afternoon session, and I will bring you, to your classroom. Okay, morning session mostly about the theory, but in the afternoon we will go to class. Okay. We see you in the afternoon, Kap. See you.
Okay,
and enjoy your lunch, Kap. Enjoy your lunch, Kap.